Hey there guys, welcome to the Reptile Rumble. NovemberJoy here, and today I'm actually doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be trying to review this little handheld device that I gotten. It's a very interesting thing. It's the GPD Win. Basically, it's a small, portable, handheld, just window and computer. And like from the very description, it sounds interesting. And looking at it right here, it's not very large. Definitely very portable. Actually, you know what, let's compare it to a 3DS XL right here. It is very similar. Now, I will admit the 3DS XL is definitely a lot lighter, and possibly just a little bit thinner on the bottom, but yes, it is very similar in size. You cannot say this thing isn't portable. So anyway, let's take a look at this. This is where the air comes out when you have the fan on. So yeah, don't block this. That would be stupid to try to block that. And right here, this is actually something interesting. A manual fan switch. You can actually choose exactly how fast the fan is going to spin the entire time. So you can have it on max for max cooling potential. Even on max though, if you're pushing this thing to its absolute limits, it will get pretty hot. It'll get pretty toasty on the bottom. It's definitely not enough to actually cause a burn or anything. But it can be slightly uncomfortable in some situations. However, it's definitely not a deal breaker, at least not for me. And the fan is actually fairly quiet on this thing. I have to admit, even on max setting, the noise is noticeable if there's nothing else going on around you, or there's no noise coming from the device. But yeah, if you have anything going on that's making any noise whatsoever, you're not going to be able to hear it unless you put the fan right up to your ear. However, if the noise does bother you, can always turn the fan down. So anyway, and here is the speaker, the one speaker. Alright, there we go, now it's in the view of the camera. Right now, it's definitely not the highest quality speaker, but it is decently loud. You will not have any trouble hearing what's going on if you're watching a video or playing a game or whatever. Yeah, this thing will be pretty good. But, yeah, the quality definitely isn't great. It's definitely a little bit lower than what I would have expected for a device like this. Although, considering that this is one of the first of its kind, at least one of the first modern, like, tiny PCs of its kind, I can sort of forgive that. And right here, you've got a bumper, a trigger, another bumper, and another trigger. Got all the bumpers and triggers you could ever want. And right here you have lots and lots of ports. See, we've got USB-C for charging. Unfortunately, it's not Thunderbolt, so if you want to be that one crazy guy who tries to connect an external graphics card to this thing, you're not going to be doing that. And then we have a mini HDMI, not to be confused with micro HDMI, even though they both have pretty much the exact same specifications, they're completely incompatible with each other. I ended up learning that one the hard way. Then we also have a micro SD card port. Officially, it supports up to 128 gigabytes of storage from the micro SD card, but from what I've heard, you can put a 256 gigabyte card in there and it'll work just fine. Although personally, I tried putting a 128 gigabyte card in there myself, so I don't know. And right here we have a USB 3 port, which is currently being blocked by this flash drive, which I've been using. And then right here, look at this. You see, Apple? You can make a compact device that easily fits in your pocket, with plenty of computing power, and you can still have a 3.5mm headphone jack. Look, you see, Apple could learn a lot from these guys. Alright, so anyway, now that I've given a quick overview of the outside of the device, now let's try to, I do actually open up the device. Let's see, right here, this is kind of interesting. It actually has a full, so first of all, it has a full QWERTY keyboard, or with the function key, Windows key, and every key as well. Pretty much everything you could ask for, although the small size makes it impossible to touch type. You can thumb type on it fairly well. Then right over here you have 10 different function keys right here. Insert, print screen, pause, scroll lock. The keys that are very rarely even used in the first place. I'm not sure why they're there. The power button, the guide button right there. I'm not sure why I couldn't put that in the middle, but I guess that's taken up by the switch. falling down. And here's just a couple of other the kickers that might be a deal breaker for some people. So select, start, L3, and R3 are right down here. So if you ever want to press those buttons, you got to reach down there. Now I honestly don't understand. I can understand why the sticks aren't clickable. Hell, the 3DS doesn't have clickable sticks, and it has. And it's actually developed by Nintendo. Like, Nintendo's really big on putting quality assurance in their products. So if they can't do clickable sticks in a form factor like this, then I can understand why this one doesn't have them. Although it would still be a deal breaker for some people. But I don't know why they couldn't put select and start in the middle. It just seems like such a minor thing. I don't know why they couldn't do it. Alright, and right here it also has a full set of buttons. A D-pad, left stick, right stick. It also has Y, X, B, A buttons. The best thing about these buttons is that they also have the plate in very tiny font. They have the PlayStation symbols right on them, in case you're trying to do any kind of emulation with this and playing PlayStation games. And yes, that is a major thing that this thing is useful for as well. So anyway, giving you a quick overview of the device. So it's time to dim the lights, and we'll see what the screen looks like. Alright, so we are back, and yes, that's one of the things that you need to do on this thing for optimum performance. This is a rough picture of what the screen looks like. It's a 1280 by 720 in terms of resolution. It's a 5.5 inch IPS screen, and honestly, considering this device's small size, it's actually very good. They hit the perfect sweet spot of screen size, portability, and resolution in terms of what you can actually use. In 720p, most of the text is still at the threshold of readability, especially if you're holding this thing up close to you, like what you're supposed to do with a portable device like this. Not to mention, it has trouble trying to play games at resolutions higher than 720p in most cases, due to its low specs. Now, for those of you who are interested in what the specs are, this thing essentially has a Intel Atom X7 Z8750 processor, 1.6 GHz quad core, and it can turbo boost up to 2.56, and it runs entirely off of the Intel HD graphics built into that processor. This is 4 GB of LPDDR3 RAM. It runs Windows 10 Home. It's got 64 GB of eMMC storage. So look at this thing. More storage than the Switch. It is kind of an impressive thing to an extent, considering how small this device is. It's actually smaller than a Switch. So right here, a device more portable than a Switch. That should have been this thing's catchphrase. Alright, so anyway, just to put the point home about exactly how this. And by the way, one thing I should talk about a little bit earlier was the switch in the middle there. Now, let's see, the setting on the left is for direct input, which is basically the older style of using controllers on PC. So if you want to play much older games on this thing, which would be a good way to use it, considering it's somewhat low specs, you'll have to switch it over to direct input mode. Now, the middle and the rightmost mode is X input, which basically just emulates an Xbox 360 controller. That's the mode you're probably going to be using most often. But in the middle is also something very interesting. It's actually mouse mode. What you do with it is, if it's in mouse mode, you can use the right stick to move the pointer around. The left stick becomes like a scroll wheel, and you can left click, and the left and right click become the triggers. The triggers or bumpers interchangeably, essentially. So anyway, okay, let's put forth how portable this thing is. Just give me a second. Let's try running Undertale on it. Right here. Alright. And here we go. And here we go on Undertale. It's running on an itty bitty thing here. So yeah, this thing. And you can also hear the quality of the speaker here. It's not the most high quality speaker, but it does work. It does work. yeah, if you want to play indie games, this thing is very good at it. And also in terms of other games, in most cases you will have to turn them down to the lowest settings, and in many cases you will have to use like low spec mods and things like that to get them working. But it's impressive just how much this thing can do for its small size. So, all right, let's close out of this real quick. And so basically, what do I think of this device? Personally, from the amount of time that I've spent using it, it's actually very, very nice. It's also one of the few products I've ever seen that's actually honest about its battery life. It has a somewhat impressive 6700 milliamp hour battery, which is much larger than the majority of devices, I believe. And actually makes very good use of that battery. The one thing is that it does make the charging time a little bit slow, but you can actually get plenty of running time with this thing. If you're just doing light internet browsing, this thing can easily last you throughout an entire day, like 10 hours, something like that. If you're watching videos, and actually it depends on how you're watching. If you using them with something that actually utilizes the full hardware of the device, I say it can last you about 5 to 6 hours, something like that. Along with light gaming, can last you about 5 to 6 hours. And if you're doing heavy stuff with it, and utilizing all of the capacity of the device, it'll last you about 2 to 3, maybe 4 hours. So yeah, basically, I think this thing is absolutely worth the price, although it is still a niche product. It's entirely up to you whether you'd prefer the Switch, which with some of the games that it currently has, but if you already have a large Steam library, this is a thing that would be perfect to take your games with you on the go. And personally, that's that's a prospect that I find very, very appealing, just being able to take the games with me wherever I go. So yeah, overall, let's see, what would I rate this out of 5? Personally, I would give this a 4 out of 5. It's almost like the perfect device for something that I'd be looking for. It's definitely got more than enough power for its tiny size, and pretty much everything about it feels very well crafted. There are, however, a few flaws. For example, Windows can sometimes be kind of an issue with this thing. I had to do some driver fuckery to actually get the Wi-Fi on this thing actually working. Whenever I first got the device, the triggers and bumpers feel a little bit wobbly. They're a little bit poorly constructed. However, they do still work very well. I'm pretty sure they can withstand a lot of abuse, even though they do feel slightly cheaply made. And overall, some of the things that I've already mentioned here, like the fact that the sticks aren't clickable and the select and start buttons are down at the bottom right. Some of these might be deal breakers for some people. Personally, I can tolerate them just fine. So anyway, I guess I will be seeing you guys later. For now, goodbye. Actually, I might do a video showing off us a little bit more about how this thing actually plays games in more detail. But anyway, until then, goodbye.